I'm going to share something real with you today. And that is the reason why love is such the point of focus in our today's society, to the point we chase after it. We are desperate for it, to the point we're controlling it, is because we have lost touch with it. And please understand, love is not just through connections and a person, which is a distorted way to think. Love is in all aspects. Love is the very thing that created everything, including us. But because we have lost touch with it, we have troubles allowing love in. But here's the thing. There is a reasoning why you have troubles allowing love in, and that is because you don't understand your traumas. And traumas come in many different forms, not just in big forms, small forms that we don't even know. So on today's episode, we're going to learn how to allow love in by understanding 6 ways on how to understand your trauma. And when you allow yourself to see these 6 ways within your life and how they're affecting you in receiving love on all aspects, and receiving happiness, joy, clarity, whatever it is you desire that is a sense of love to you, I guarantee you will understand the reasoning why you went through what you went through, and understanding how that is a part of your ascension. What is gooch, you beautiful beings? Welcome back. Another episode on Embracing Ascension series with your homegirl, Brittany Fontanez. If you're new to this channel, welcome back. If you've been here before, my name is Brittany Fontanez. What I do on this channel, I speak about spiritual development, emotional awareness, and I do guided readings for your zodiac sign, and I talk about things I feel need to be talked about because our divine right to know more than what we have been told. And I am an intuitive shaman, healer, and psychic tarot reader. So if you want to know anything about me or my services, my merch, my healing course, everything I have to offer to you and this beautiful collective, all that information will be down in the description box below by going to my link tree. Link. You know what I mean. But other than that, beautiful beings, if you enjoy this video and it does resonate with you, set out any activations or any epiphanies, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you won't miss out on any videos. But other than that, done with the intro, let's get into what I feel called and passionate to share with you today. I am such a fucking weirdo. I didn't have to say it out loud. I am a fucking weirdo, because people find enjoyment in such, like, you know, partying, drinking, going out, doing these little things. But me, I find enjoyment through growth. I find enjoyment knowing that I have overcome something that was such a hurdle. And I say this because I'm so weird, because I find passion in what I share that assists others through their healing. I'm a fucking weirdo. Yes, I'm guessing this is a geek thing for me. A spiritual geek? Is there such thing as that? I don't know. I'm going to call it that. But anyway, beautiful beings, enough of that. Enough of my shenanigans. Let's get into how to allow love in. 6 ways to understanding your trauma. Now, you guys, before I get into this, I want to share with you my story. I've been through a lot of things, and if you've been on my journey with me so far through my YouTube channel, I have explained my story plenty of times. That is, I've been through nothing but pain. I've experienced nothing but trauma, as an emotional abuse, verbal, mental, you know, physical, all that you can ever think of, even sexual. I've experienced all of it, and it got me to a point where suicide was my only option, and then that led to my spiritual awakening. And because of this, all of this pain, all of this trauma, I didn't understand. Why is it I was only experiencing darkness at a young age, up until the point of the year, what was it? I would say 2 years ago, when I really started to commit to my path, commit to my healing, to commit to self-love. You know, I've experienced all these things that only kept me in my mind. It kept my heart closed, to the point I didn't know how to love. I didn't know how to receive love. I didn't know how to be the person I was envisioning that I know I truly am, because my heart was so wounded. And you know, when we get to a point when we think we're broken, we are just wounded, and we haven't had trauma that we have actually worked through, because it's just the suppression of trauma. And what happens when you suppress your emotions? Suppression turns to depression, and depression is really your avatar, meaning your avatar, which I would like to consider your soul, is tired of the ego's demands of playing a certain identity that is only making you suffer. And because of this suffering, it's all because you don't understand your trauma. And a lot of us don't understand, why is it that one day we're happy, and then the next day, and then the next week, and then the next month we're depressed, we're sad. It's like a fluctuation of our emotions to the point we just want to run away from it or go numb. And this is why we have troubles being comfortable in our body, hence have anxiety, is because we haven't dealt with what we have so much shame for, which we blame ourselves for. And we're going to get into understanding in what ways through your behavior is there suppressed trauma, and how is affecting your way of allowing love in. Now, please understand, you guys, like I said, love comes in many different forms, you guys. Many, many different forms. Love is not just a relationship. Love is through feeling joy at your work or your passion. Love is through, having compassion for your friends, for your family. Love is having such excitement for life. Love, it comes in many forms. Having so much gratitude for your existence. Like I said, love comes in many forms. But the thing is, the reason why we're so distorted in thinking love comes only in a relationship is because we have been taught to believe. I always say we're taught because majority of us don't understand that our identity, who we made ourselves to believe we are today, is really other people's opinions and what we've been told to believe about ourselves. And this is how we get so disaligned through our truth and through our own frequency, that is our own sense of love. It's because we get so far off and bypassing what we desire, what we need, what our heart is calling for us, to the point that we start listening to everything outside of us on how to receive the things that we feel that we want and need. And I say this because, since we've been taught such a distorted perspective that love comes from another person, we think we can't enjoy life unless we have that one person. But I'm here to share with you, you can allow love in all ways of life once you understand your trauma, to the point it's not just about a relationship with another person. It's about a relationship with you, and a relationship with you and life. And that is the most important relationship that you must prioritize before you can even think about allowing someone into your life or having someone allow you into their life. So this is not just regarding relationships, you guys. This is regarding life in general. Like I said, love is in everything. Love is the very thing that created this life, this world, and you and me. And once we understand that love is a frequency and we can tap into it anytime we want, then we will understand how to love ourselves, how to heal ourselves, how to give ourselves what we need without needing anything or anyone. And that is the goal here. Not self-empowerment, but spiritual development and emotional awareness, to learn how to love self and understand yourself, and why God created this dang beautiful being that you are. Jeez, man. All right, beautiful beings, let's get into this. How to allow love in. Now, the number one way to understanding your trauma is by first, you got to be aware of your behaviors. This is why self-awareness is so important. This is why feeling your emotions is important. When you feel your emotions, you gain clarity on why they're there, and they teach you a lesson on how to grow and how to better yourself, to create more boundaries, a stronger self-image, but also more compassion for yourself. See, self-love is really about vulnerability and compassion. Self-love has nothing to do with, showing off and being better than anyone or exuding confidence. No. Self-love is really having vulnerability and compassion for the fact that you are an imperfect being, but you are perfect as well. So understanding these both in a humble manner will help you have compassion for this world. Hence, no more judgment. It's gotten to a point with me where, like, when it comes to love so much, when I started to really become self-aware, judging, gossiping, it hurts. It hurts because it's like I'm talking about myself. It hurts. You know what I'm saying? I'm even getting teary-eyed just saying this, because we're so interconnected with one another that we forget that we're reflections of one another. This is why it's so important to become self-aware, so we don't project our pain onto other people. We want to become the reflection in the example of someone who has healed, and being a light and being a beacon to those who have lost their way and their light and their love. So, on that, beautiful beings, let's get into it. So the first way to understand your trauma is hypersensitivity. Now, this is a big one when it comes to people who have been through sexual trauma, emotional trauma, verbal abuse, mental abuse, narcissistic abuse. You know, hypersensitivity is a number one way to understand your trauma, because hypersensitivity is a re-triggering of painful feelings. Now, for example, hypersensitivity for me, I get highly sensitive, highly offended at the most subtle, tiny little things, to the point I don't know how to take a joke. And yeah, people think you take life so serious to the point people don't want to hang out with me. I get it. But the thing is, this is a flaw of mine, and I've learned to accept it. Because this hypersensitivity does re-trigger a lot of painful memories and feelings of inadequacy, of insecurity, of bullying, of the number one person that bullied me the most was my sister. I hold no grudges against her. Nothing but love for her. But I still have these re-triggerings of how she used to verbally abuse me, physically as well, but verbally abuse me like, oh, you're stupid, you're dumb, it's consistently being heard that you're not good enough caused me to be so hypersensitive that I will crawl into a shell thinking I'm protecting myself, but really I'm just not grounded in myself. So the way to understand your trauma is by, are you hypersensitive? Do you get offended easily? Do you get scared easily where like you come around certain people and you're just like, or you isolate yourself because you feel emotions immensely. Hypersensitivity re-triggers painful feelings to the point that you pick up people's emotions as well that make you go back to those painful experiences too. So the way to understand your trauma is through your behavior. Are you hypersensitive? And if you're hypersensitive to the point that painful feelings are re-triggered, then the way to allow love in is by first understanding how to have compassion for the fact that you still haven't gotten over something or forgiven something that has hurt you. And that's a big thing. The way to allow love in by understanding hypersensitivity is by being there for yourself. It's like, think of it this way. When a kid is really, really sad and they need you to comfort them, what are you going to do? You're going to run and comfort them. That is how yourself is. You got to see yourself as that little kid reliving a painful experience that you probably did not know was sitting in your vessel. You got to have compassion for yourself. And the way to allow love in is by being aware of your hypersensitivity and having compassion, because you're learning about how you've been feeling that you didn't know you were hiding. Now, the second way to allow love in and understanding your trauma is, this is a big one, and this is a big one I realized in my life, is that you refuse help. Well, when you refuse help, it's because you carry a lot of shame and self-blame. Now, the way to understand your trauma through this is understanding, do you refuse help? Are you so independent to the point you're too independent that you think no one is there for you, but you don't know how to allow people to be there for you because you think you have to do it all? Because you probably have lived a childhood where you were doing everything for everyone, or you had to take care of a parent that was actually meant to take care of you. So you had to take on responsibility so quickly to the point that you think you have to carry it all. And that caused you to have so much shame to the point, so much shame in your life and so much shame in yourself that you blame yourself, that everything is the way that it is because of you. It's crazy how all of that makes you refuse help because you think you're not worthy of it. And the way to allow love in by understanding this trauma is by first realizing that you are allowed help. The reason why there's other people in this world is because we're meant to help each other. You are allowed to take a break. You are allowed to tell yourself, I am worthy of receiving, without needing to do anything or be anyone, or being someone and doing something. The way to allow love in through understanding this trauma is by realizing you are deserving of receiving help, of knowing that it is okay to have people be there for you, and know that there's nothing wrong with you. And here's another thing. The shame and the blame that you hold for yourself, everyone has the same feeling about themselves too. You're not the only one who is holding a lot of shame and blame for yourself. Blame for thyself. So that's one way to understand your trauma, is by refusing help. Now the third way of understanding your trauma and how to allow love in is disengaged. Now this has happened a lot to me in my life, where yes, I have also refused help of being too independent, but I become so disengaged to the point I think like when I'm around people, I still feel lonely. I feel like no one understands me, especially when you're on your spiritual journey. A lot of people, when they awaken to their spiritual journey and they start unfolding all these distorted paradigms and they start realizing their truth, they start to feel lonely. And they start to think no one understands them. And they start to think that they're on this journey by themselves. And because of this, we start to get so disengaged to the point we create our own suffering and depression, because we have yet to understand the point of why we awaken to this journey. Now, disengagement is really an experiencing of disassociation. A lot of us believe that we have to disengage because we think we are a burden. That is one way our trauma could affect us allowing love in, allowing people into our lives that want to love us or allow happiness or goodness in general, is because we become so disengaged because we think we're a burden. And the way to transform that is by realizing what makes you believe you're a burden. Who has told you you are a burden? And question this. If you were a burden, why is it that you were created? That's more of a question rather than a solution to allow love in. So that is the third way to understanding your traumas is, are you disengaged? Are you experiencing dissociation? And is it because you feel like you're a burden? And then question, who has told you that? And actually question yourself. If I am a burden, then why was I created? And I guarantee you, your mind, your heart is going to come up with so many different answers. Just make sure you listen to the most subtle one, because that is your inner truth. Now, the fourth way of understanding your trauma is unmotivated, struggling with depression. You know, my family on my mom's side suffer from depression, and I do have a little bit of depression that I suffer with from time to time. I do have somewhat good control over it now. Suicidal thoughts don't get to me. But, you know, the way trauma could affect allowing love in, allowing happiness in, allowing us to enjoy life, enjoy the things we love to do, is by we feel unmotivated towards life. And it's because what we have been through our trauma can make us believe we can't find enjoyment in life, because what has happened to us is so painful that it overrides enjoyment. So if this happened to me, what makes me believe that I deserve any enjoyment in life? The way to allow love in through understanding your unmotivation and you're struggling with depression is by allow yourself to feel unmotivated. Allow yourself to feel this depression, because little do you know, you can't force yourself to be positive. You just can't. It is a building of a momentum. It is a building It is a practice, a skill set that we have to build towards. And what I'm saying is that in order to allow love in, once you understand how unmotivated you feel and how you're struggling with your depression, is by allowing these emotions to flow through you. A lot of people think that disassociating and bypassing how you feel is an easy way to heal. If anything, that is not healing. That is only creating more stagnation, and it's only going to create even more of a harder time to release and purge that energy out of you, the more it stays within you and the more that you avoid it. So the best way that you can allow yourself to feel more motivated, to allow more love in, is by being real with yourself and saying, this is how I feel, and allowing yourself to feel that. So, as a fourth way of understanding your trauma. Now, the fifth way of understanding your trauma and allow love in is you are avoidant. And avoidance is a way to deal with stress, a way to manage stress. You know, trauma, for me, when I went through, sexual trauma, or when I went through bullying, it caused me to really isolate myself. And a lot of us are in hermit mode to the point we don't want to associate with life because we feel people are going to hurt us through their words, through their actions. We just feel like the world is coming after us. And it's scary to think that way. I thought that way all the time, to the point I thought the world was a bad place and I did not want to associate with it, to the point I was questioning, why did I even exist? But then I had to start realizing the way to allow love in through understanding my avoidance is by realizing that I just am a vulnerable person, and I need to set boundaries to allow things in my life that are going to nurture my soul and my heart. So the way to actually allow love in through understanding your avoidance is by realizing what things do you need to change, meaning what people do you hang out with, how do people speak to you, and how do you allow those people to treat you, how do you allow life to treat you. That is where you need to have good discernment and understanding what boundaries you need to set and what you need to build for yourself, so you can set those boundaries, but you can also stand up for yourself and have integrity. The reason why I become avoidant is because we become so scared and sensitive to the world that we think it's going to come after us. Everyone is coming after us. So the way to transmute that is by realizing that the world is the way that it is. What I have to do is seek comfort within myself and in the world. And the way to do that is by associating yourself with life through what you feel is going to nurture your soul. So if you feel like there's people who are toxic, there's people who have dark sense of humor, and they have jokes towards you, and they're hurtful, or you feel like there are certain things that are not making you feel good about yourself, then those are the changes you need to make. Those are the people you need to release, let go of. Habits you need to change. Whatever you need to do that is not serving you, start making those changes towards what is serving you. That is how you stop becoming avoidant, is by choosing things that are healthy for you, rather than running away because you keep choosing things that aren't good for you. No matter what, if you don't face what you avoid, it's only going to repeat. So you might as well face it, accept it, but then realize what you need to do to change it. That is how you find your step, your footing, and your control in every situation. Now, last but not least, this one is a really big one. This is the big one I really want to talk about because I still struggle with this till this day. And of course, I can honestly say that with vulnerability. Now, how to allow love in by understanding your trauma. And this is the last trauma, the biggest one that a lot of us have, and that is reactivity. We have difficulties managing our emotions. Majority of the world. A lot of us have troubles managing our emotions. We lash out in anger. We say things we don't mean. We do things we don't want to do, you know? It's because when we avoid what we need to face, that is our spiritual lesson that helps us evolve into this human vessel. When we avoid that, what we're doing is we're prolonging our process of our ascension, meaning that we're avoiding the growth that we need in order to make the changes to create the happiness within our lives. And the more that we avoid this, the more that you're going to have to learn those lessons through harsh consequences. And the thing is that it's because your trauma keeps repeating, and all it wants to do is to be seen, to be healed, to be released, so it can be let go of you. And so you can let go of it. The whole point of why I said what I just said is because our traumas are ruling us subconsciously on how we act consciously. It rules how we think, how we act, how we speak, how we treat people, how we treat ourselves. And if we become so tolerant of the toxicity of downplaying ourselves, of, receiving things that make us settle for less, or make us neglect ourselves, or make us realize how much we're not a good person, Trauma, all trauma is going to be reflected through things, through toxicity, until you wake up to realizing that you have pain that you have yet to deal with. And when we don't deal with this, all that trauma is going to do is lash out in toxic ways, and substance abuse, neglect, control, all of these different things. So it's important to realize, to understand your trauma by allowing love in, is by realizing, why do we become so reactive to things? This is not about you need to get better control of your emotions. It's about understanding your emotions. You can't manage what you don't understand. So until you understand why you feel the way that you do and what makes you react, that is your work. Your trigger, you understanding your trigger, is your inner work. And the way to understand your trauma and to allow love in through reactivity is by understanding, why am I reacting? The majority of the time, when we react to things that are hurtful, is because we're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to defend ourselves. We're trying to make sure that we don't get hurt again. That's all it is. It's your trauma. Weirdly, your trauma is trying to protect yourself. But subconsciously, your trauma is through your ego, and your ego is through fear, and it's trying to make sure that trauma stays alive so you stay stagnant. But when you start to understand your traumas through your behavior, then you start to realize how all of this is really trying to help you grow. It's really trying to help you evolve and ascend. And what is the point of ascension? The point of ascension is understanding the experience of this life on a deeper level than the physical. And that is the whole point of why we need to feel our emotions and face our problems and face the shit that we run away from. Because if we don't, all we're going to do is stay in this dense energy and live a miserable life, and we're going to forget the whole purpose of why we came back to this planet. So understanding these 6 ways of your traumas through your behavior, through understanding this, how does this help you allow love in? It helps you allow love in because it helps you start to have space to understand yourself like a friend, like a lover, so you can learn to give yourself what you need. Because on this journey, no one's going to save you, no one's going to help you. That is your job to do. But the only way to succeed at that job is by first holding space for yourself and understanding why you feel hurt, why you act the way that you do, why you think the way you do, with no judgment, but with such curiosity and such love and such compassion, like you are interested in, like when you have a child or when you're around a kid and you're just so intrigued by how they think and by how they act. That's how you have to see yourself. That is how you start allowing love in. Because when you start to understand your trauma, you start to understand how all of this was trying to teach you the beauty about you. And then when you start to understand, you start to see how love is in everything. And I know this sounds weird. Britt, I've been through this, I've been through that. How can I find love? How can I allow love? And when all this bad shit has happened to me, you have to understand. Your purpose on this planet is to understand why you came back here. And you came back here is to understand love through your own experience of your own definition of love. Of what is love to you. And that is what you have to find within this life. And experience that. But how there is love through this trauma, through this pain, through this turmoil, is because you have no choice but to find strength in it. And what happens when you find strength? You find confidence. What happens when you find confidence? You find pride. What happens when you find pride? You find vulnerability. What happens when you find vulnerability? You find compassion. What happens when you find compassion? You find gratitude. And what happens when you find gratitude? You find appreciation for your existence, for your life, and for the fact that you overcame something that you thought would break you, but it actually made you. The whole point of all of this is to help you realize how strong of a multidimensional being that you are, that you can create through anything that happens to you. It's just a matter of what is your intention behind it. To allow more suffering or to allow victory and happiness. That is where you find your power, through understanding your trauma. And that's how you allow love in. Hence is your power. So, beautiful beings, you know, the most important thing through all of this, everything I share with you to understand your trauma, is by don't react so much to life. Don't take yourself too seriously. If anything, just be so curious to the point you want to be the observer rather than the reactor. I like the way that sounded. But beautiful beings, that's all I had to share with you today. That is 6 ways of understanding your trauma, and how through understanding your trauma you will learn how to allow love in on all aspects of life. And also realize, put these to test and realize how these little behaviors, if you do have them, how do they affect your love life, and how does your actions affect people around you? And I guarantee you will start to see the habits and the repeating patterns through what has caused unsuccessful connections, relationships, and unsuccessful, opportunities or chances or anything like that. And I guarantee you, when you start to realize, what has been repeating this history, then you will gain so much clarity on how to transform that butt in a way that actually serves you through love rather than through fear and hatred. Other than that, you beautiful beings, I really hope you find enjoyment out of this video. I really hope you enjoy spending time with me here today, and also found such enlightenment through everything I shared with you. I know when I learned this within my own life, I'm like, damn, like, wow. At first I wanted to judge myself. I'm like, damn, I thought something was wrong with me. But then I had to realize we lived many lifetimes. It will take many lifetimes to understand self. But that is the journey. That is the fun of it, is learning to understand self and how to build self in the way that you feel is going to serve your heart and your soul to better allow love in. I know that doesn't make any sense, but it's just like I couldn't think of anything to say other than just to smile and be like, that's it. Just allow. Just allow. It's easier said than done, but when you start to build that skill of how to receive and how to allow, all you want to do is to release that pain and start to have compassion for yourself rather than judge yourself because of the trauma. But other than that, you beautiful beings, if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification button. And lastly, beautiful beings, if you want to book your personal appointment with me or reading or healing session, all that information down in the description box below. But I love you guys so much. Thank you so much, AwakenOnes, for trusting me on your journey. But until then, I will see you on the next one.